Another trade deadline passes and another deadline goes by where AK and the front office bet on continuity. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content. So another trade deadline passes, and once again, Bulls fans that were hoping for moves or the front office to do something are disappointed, as was kind of commonly thought, and all signs were pointing to the Bulls once again bet on continuity, meaning no moves for DeMar DeRozan, no moves for Alex Caruso, no moves for Andre Drummond, no even moves using like Javon Carter or anything like that. The Bulls looked at this roster and once again decided to stand pat. And of course, you know, AK in the front office are going to say things like, oh, well, we've seen growth and things from Kobe White. And I have no doubts that, you know, some of those things are valid. But overall, yet again, this front office has made the decision to look at this roster, a roster that's fighting for the 9th seed in the playoffs after telling us that they wanted to get better, that they wanted to compete. They wanted to, that Bulls fans would be surprised what they did this past offseason, which they didn't do anything, and then kick that can down the road to do nothing yet again when it comes down to trying to improve this roster. Now, with that said, as much, you guys know I try to be a very level-headed person. There may not have been any deals out there where the Bulls would have actually gotten better. And, you know, even clearing some salary, which, you know, Bulls fans are going to say, well, even if you weren't going to get better, get something back for DeMar who could walk for nothing. Andre Drummond, who I talked about on today's daily episode, is going to be very difficult for the Bulls to re-sign. But send him away. Get at least something back, right? And this front office, yet again, is just kind of at the behest. I don't even know what to say of like whatever happens. Like it's not about just making trades to make trades, right? I don't think any Bulls fan just wants to see AK and Eversley just make trades to say, hey, we made a trade. But to be more aggressive about improving this team, yes, the Zach LaVine trade requests and things that happen with that, his injury going down for the season, that's not anything you expected coming into this season. But the one thing that this front office talked about is that you did need a young player to step up and develop. They were hopeful of a young player doing that. You had that in Kobe White, and you want to try to, at least in my mind, try to support that better than what you can now. It's very possible that no deals were out there for the Bulls that would have, you know, drastically or even minutely changed the direction or the ceiling of this team. But then you got to look at just taking advantage of some of the assets that you have there that other teams are interested in. And that's what it's kind of the biggest indictment on this front office is that they are so locked in with the players that they brought into this team and it's kind of tied their hands in making a meaningful deal. Now, that does not mean, even in the critique of the front office and betting on continuity once again, it does not mean that this team can't still add to this team. We know that the buyout market is a thing. I know it brings its own trauma. Last 2 years, we've bought a buyout in the first season of this team coming together, Tristan Thompson, then Pat Bev last year, who Pat Bev actually did help this team play considerably better over that 14-9 stretch that, you know, the front office talked about a lot. And yeah, play better over that. So there is a chance that buyout candidates can help you. And we'll talk about on tomorrow's episode, go over potential buyout candidates from around the league that the Bulls could look at with their, you know, with their exception, their mid-level exception, things like that they do have at their disposal. It is possible that the Bulls could be one of the more desirable situations for a candidate that is, for a player that is bought out from their team because of what the Bulls can offer them in either the rest of the mid-level, part of the disabled player exception, the biannual exception. Now, that would mean that the Bulls would be theoretically going into the luxury tax for that, which is something we know that this franchise doesn't like to do because of ownership. But there is still that chance. But as of right now, after this trade deadline, a trade deadline where there was so much speculation about the Bulls' pieces, teams being interested in players like Drum and Caruso, even DeMar DeRozan having a little bit of market, the fact that it just ends with the Zach LaVine trade speculation to start the season, this here towards the middle now and around this trade deadline, where it ends up that the roster basically is going to be the exact same it was coming out of the season as it was coming into the season. It just is at this time, it's stereotypical of what this front office has done over the last 4 years with this franchise, other than that first year where they did make a lot of moves at the trade deadline. But you're not going to expect the team to be active every single year, right? You're not going to make a bunch of trades every single year. But now we are at the point where we've just kicked the can down the road. We've made very minute additions to this team since that initial run of this team coming together. And the proof is in the pudding. I feel like the ceiling on this team has been now exposed. We know what this team is, and you have players that are getting worse. Vooch is sliding. He's on a decline. DeMar DeRozan still can absolutely kill it at times, but he is, per you look at the efficiency numbers, he is on a decline. And so, you want a front office that's going to be willing and able to take advantage of that. This front office hasn't done that. And now we'll wait again into the offseason to see if maybe that major change that we thought could come after Zach LaVine requested that trade, to see if it does come maybe this offseason. But let me know what you guys feel down below. How disappointed are you in the fact that the Bulls bet on continuity once again? Let me know all that down below. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.